we are now going to discuss different angles and different things that I want you guys to pay attention to when it comes to this pose. So when you're looking at the bum up pose, there's a lot of things that can go wrong with this pose, especially when you don't know what to look for. So looking at these two images, I want you to think about, what it is that what you're looking for. So direction is a huge thing that you want to look for when you're taking your angles, where you're shooting from, what area is your camera angling down from. So another quick tip too is that keep in mind that the more butt crack you're going to show, the more sometimes some parents are a little, they don't necessarily like, you're going to either get parents that are like, they really like it, or they're like not a fan. So just make sure that one question you ask your parents is, are you okay with showing some butt crack or not? Are you okay with like the naked poses? And if they're like, oh yeah, as long as it's like super like discreet, modest, blah, 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 blah. That'll give you a really good idea of whether you should include the butt crack or not, because that will actually eliminate that picture from their purchasing order if you don't find that out ahead of time. So when looking at this picture, you can see that visually, because you see so much more butt crack, I'm clearly coming from that angle. So I am coming from the bottom left corner. And so where that arrow is, that's the direction that I'm standing. That's the area that I'm standing. And my camera is angled down. So just keep in mind too that I'm angling down onto the baby. I'm not shooting from low and angling up. So when you're taking your pictures, you always want to make sure that you're high enough so that you can get a good visual of the face, but not up the nose. Okay. So this is a different angle of the exact same pose. And you can see that there's no butt crack at all. And that should give you a good idea of where I'm standing. So in the posing tutorial, I showed you where I was coming from with the camera. And so this should give you a pretty good clue that I'm coming from this area. I'm coming from this angle and I'm shooting down the body. So getting the face and then down the body. So I'm closer to the right side of my posing bed versus the left side. So the left side, you're going to get more butt crack depending on, which side your light is. But if the head is closest to the light, which it should be, and your light is on the right-hand side like mine, then you want to be closer to the right side of your posing bed so that you're shooting down the body and not up the body. So this gives you a good idea. I am focusing on the eye closest to me. Now, this is fine. This pose is fine. Of course, I always love to tweak everything. I'm a big fan of tweaking my posing. So what I like to do is take my safe shots, and this was my safe shot, and then I like to perfect it. So what I did was I just moved over slightly. I pulled the beanie up. I rotated my camera slightly, and I snapped the shot from more of the center. So rather than totally coming from this corner, I was more almost not really in the middle, but almost in the middle, sort of. Definitely closer to the right-hand side, but not entirely on the right-hand side. So as you can see from before, it's totally down the body, coming from the right side. And I have basically just moved my body over just a few inches, and I was able to get the face, but still make sure that the bum is not in focus. I'm not getting hardly any butt crack, and I still am getting that nice curly visual. Okay. So one thing that I like to point out is that a lot of times newborn photographers, when they're posing the bum up pose, they don't really know how the body should be in position. And so somebody already asked in the thread, what was the back arm doing? The back arm is just hanging out. It's not in the picture, not really, except for this shot. And it doesn't really matter as long as that elbow is out to add that stability. Okay, so we're just gonna look at these two images and try and figure out what the differences are in between these two images. So try and see if you can think about what the differences are, and then I'm gonna break it down in the next slide. Yep, the feet. Yes, the back knee. Good eye. Good job. Excellent. Okay. So you can see that hips are open and they're in a V position and the ankle is tucked in this left one. Okay. So that's gonna give the more traditional bum up pose where we just saw in the slide before. So this is the traditional bum up pose. Okay. So this is the position of the body that the baby needs to be in. The hips need to be open and that knee needs to come up to the elbow and that top foot needs to be stacked on top of the front leg. Okay. And as you can see, it's like a V. Okay. So think of the hips and the legs and the knees. They're wide open like a V. Okay. So that'll help you visually remember with the bum up pose, the knees need to be apart for the traditional version of it. Okay. Now, when you look at this side here, you can see that the hips are turned, the knees are together. Well, you can't see the knees, but the one knee is tucked completely under the belly and that ankle is pulled out. And what that's doing is it's showing more of the bottom foot, more of the ankle, and it's basically just a different version of this pose. Okay. There we go. Just trying to hide my Zoom. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to point out to you is that the baby's body is creating like a C formation. So when you think about the curliness of this pose, you want to think of the C, and this is best shown from up above. Okay, so when we go to the next slide, now you can see it's an upside down C from this angle, but from before, the body is nice and curly, just like a C. So from the slide before, the hips need to be like a V, and then from up above, it's like a C. Okay. So the C should help you visually remember that the knee and the elbow are touching. Okay. And that back foot is resting on top. Now with this, you can see that the ankle is pulled out. Now, typically I would flip that foot out with this style of bum up pose, but the baby didn't like it. So I just left him as is. And so we're just going to carry on. So, you know how I tell you, okay, let's do our safe shots. Okay. So this pose, this shot specifically is my safe shot. Baby's in position. If this is all I had to give to mom, I would be fine with that. It's not like a big deal. To me, it's not aesthetically perfect, but it's good enough for mom, right? Like mom's not going to notice anything that I notice. Okay. But I want you to think about what needs to be fixed in this image. Can anybody see what needs to be fixed? Yes. Chin up. Yes, yes, yes. Good job. Good job. Okay, so we're just going to show you the next one. Okay, so his chin is tucked in. So I'm pointing out what is wrong with this. So his chin is tucked in. There's no light on the bottom of his face. And what that's doing is it's actually distorting his face, and it's actually creating like your main focus on his forehead rather than his actual face. So just by minimal tweaking, I lifted the chin I did that by adding a lifter, but also manually lifting his face and chin up just slightly. And I flattened his hand. So by doing that, I just created a much more pleasing image, and I'll just go to the one before. So as you can see, you know, the chin is not showing at all, but now his face is showing. And some babies, you know, you're not going to be able to lift their chin up super high. So just be cautious of when you're doing that and just make sure that the baby is comfortable. Okay, so when you look at this pose, what do you see needs work? And then I'll tell you about this after. So who can tell me what is missing in this bum up pose? Yeah, the back foot. Yeah, the foot needs to be tucked and lifted. Yes. What else? Yeah, you could pull the bum. Yeah, chin up more. C shape. What else? Yes, Amber, right. The face is too far on the pillow. Exactly. So this shot I actually took specifically as a demonstration. I had literally just put the baby on the fabric. I snapped the shot just so that I could use it in a teaching situation. And then I posed the baby after I took this shot. So you can see that the back foot does need to be stacked on top of the front ankle, and that the head wedge needs to be pulled away slightly to create a tilt effect. So what we do is first we're going to pull that head wedge further away from the baby's head slightly, and then lift it if necessary. I also pulled the top half of her body towards me, and I created that C pattern. So good job. You guys like figured it out right away. I'm super impressed. That's fantastic. Yes, the fingers too. Absolutely. Awesome, you guys. Okay. So I also want to point out that you can see that her elbow is in front of the knee. Try and always have the elbow in front of the knee. It allows you to tuck that knee in. It creates more focus on the baby's upper body rather than, you know, so much focus on the bum area. We want the focus to be on the face. Okay, so when you are thinking about this pose, you want to focus on what angles you should be capturing for every session. And you want to focus on 3 specifically. And I'm just going to share the 3 that I like to focus on. So 1 is a close-up of the face. 2 is a full body horizontal, the typical classic shot. And then 1 is either from up above, or you could do backlit depending on the pose, or maybe from the side. So as you can see from the tutorial, and you guys will be able to rewatch the tutorial in full after I get the link in the group. But you want to get a full face. Now I like to have this portrait style crop of the baby's face. And then I also like to do a horizontal shot of the side of the baby's face, which includes some of the back rolls. Second angle would be to take images from up above. And also don't forget to snap a picture of those back rolls. These are really easy fillers that you can just add into the gallery. So this is that classic angle that every parent expects. So make sure that you include that classic angle into your gallery, because you will regret it if you don't. And then parents typically expect it, so you'll disappoint them if you don't include it. But one thing that I wanted to point out is that don't be afraid to rotate your camera. When you rotate your camera, you're able to play with your angles, and sometimes certain poses just look amazing on like a tilt or on an angle. And one of the poses that I love in an angle like this is actually the side sleeper pose, or the taco pose. So don't be afraid to rotate your camera. And when you rotate your camera, where your right hand is lifting up, what you're going to do is raise the head. And that's what you're seeing in these two pictures right now. Whereas if you were to raise the left hand, then you would actually have the bum up higher and the head would be lower. Okay, so these are the settings for this picture in case anybody was wondering. The shutter speed was 1/200, the ISO was 125, and the f-stop was 2.5. This is completely raw and unedited, no preset, nothing. So as you can see, my lighting is really soft, but yet I'm still getting some nice definition and shadows. And as you can see, one thing I want you to pay attention to is that my fabric is smooth and wrinkle free. I have to say that one thing that a lot of newborn photographers struggle with when they're first starting out is wrinkles on your fabric. So find a frame that you're able to use, that you enjoy using, and clamp down that fabric so that you are not dealing with wrinkles, because wrinkles are an editing nightmare. One thing too is that when you're focusing on your corrections with your posing, look for the things that are causing distortion or, you know, causing problems with your image. So as you can see on the left-hand side, you can see that there's too much forehead going on, and I'm clearly too far to the left. I obviously needed to reposition my body so that I could get a better focus on the face and visual on the face, and, you know, not too much forehead. So really pay attention to where you're shooting and where your camera angles are coming from. So I just wanted to give a throwback to, or show you a throwback to, this was my second newborn session ever, and this was my version of a bum up pose. So we all start somewhere, we all, you know, are going to grow over time, but I just wanted to show this with you. And this one was from 2 years into my photography journey. This one was actually taken after attending a one-on-one workshop, and there's so many things that need to be fixed in this picture, but I was clueless. I had no idea. So thought you would get a good kick out of that. And then this one is, I'm sure you've seen it all over my stuff, is because it's my favorite bum up image that I've taken in the last few months. And, you know, don't be surprised if you're able to get curlier images or curlier poses with some babies than others, because every baby is different. Some babies are really stiff. It really just depends on the pregnancy and how the baby was inside mom. So, you know, you're going to get those stiffer babies, but then you're going to get those babies that are super pudgy and super squishy, and they just like literally just like mold right into whatever pose that you're wanting them to go into. So thanks for hanging out with me, and I'm going to go through the questions in the chat in a minute, and I would be very happy if any of you wanted to ask me questions. You can unmute yourself, but so that everybody has a chance to ask their questions, just raise your hand first and I will ask you one by one. But I'm just, in the meantime, while you're thinking of your questions, I'm just going to go through the chat here and just grab those questions you guys had. And thanks for putting up with the internet. Oh my gosh, you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create like a boot camp class that you guys will have you will be able to access for this week only, and it will be deleted, but you'll at least be able to watch the tutorial without it glitching. So I apologize about that. I can't even believe that happened. Ugh, embarrassing. Okay. Okay, so we covered how we position the back arm. So the light I'm using is the Einstein, and I use the Paul C. Buff, the PLM system. So I actually have all the different kinds. I have a white umbrella, I have a black and silver, I have a black and white. I always have a white diffusion fabric on the front of the PLM. And I have a reverse Matthews stand because I like to have my light go nice and low to the ground. However, I am going to get one with wheels because I'm tired of moving everything around. However, when you're first starting, I would recommend that you try and do things the way we teach initially so that you can duplicate everything that we're teaching. And my lighting is, I actually have a lighting tutorial in my store, and it's on momtalkmonthly.com. You can grab it in the store. It's very detailed. However, I am very similar to the Rembrandt lighting method. And that is basically what I start with, but I obviously adjust it because I don't want to have super heavy shadows. How many layers do you use over your beans? So I have around 11 layers of fabric. And the reason why is because what I like to explain is that when you create this and you're doing this, working with these babies, you don't want to have the posers really show through the fabric. So you need to have enough fabric to hide them. And you want it to be soft, but you don't want it to be so soft that you don't have full control over the posers. So with the thin layers of fabric stacked on top of each other, it almost creates like a dense thickness. So it's firm and dense. It's not super light and fluffy with a lot of give. And that's why I don't use like 4 or 5 fleece blankets, because the thinner the fabric, the denser it is, but it's still soft. So that's why I use so many layers of fabric. You got the 60 Mark II and notice that you can only go to 160 shutter speed, where with my previous camera, I could go to 200. Is there a reason? Maybe I have Alien B400. I think every camera is different with the light that they use. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I mean, a 160 shutter speed is just fine. I can use 160 shutter speed, or I can use 200. That's awesome that you got an Einstein secondhand. I honestly have all my Einsteins are secondhand. I've never bought them brand new because I'm in Canada, and to buy them here brand new is outrageously expensive. So I'm too stubborn to do that. So I always just watch the buy and sells. And if one comes up, I buy it if I need one. So I would recommend that if anybody is brand new to photography and you want a really good, powerful light for your newborns, but it's not too powerful so that it's blowing out the skin, get the Einstein. It's awesome. The coloring's great. And then, as you're more experienced, if you want to diversify and try different things, then do it at that time. And I would say that you need a 64-inch umbrella at the smallest. So if your umbrella is smaller than a 64-inch, then you need to get a 64-inch or bigger. But I do like the 64-inch because it's easy to maneuver. I find I have the 86-inch as well, but the 86-inch is so big, and I find that it's almost too big sometimes. So I just stick with my 64-inch, and I'm happy with that. The bean that I'm referring to in the video is the Hello Little shapeshifters, and they're really good. Do I always shoot live view? Yeah, I do now that I have the Mark, or what's my camera? R6. I have the R6. So I usually just shoot with the live view now. Okay, can we see the posing pillows you use on the feet and the head? Yes, I will show you. 1 second. I'll share my screen with you in just a second. So, as you can see here, the poser, these are the posers. So this is one of the PDFs that I include in my education site. So it just shows exactly where the posers need to be in relation to the pose and how you can, reference that. Okay. What temperature do you typically set the studio to? I have no control over my studio heat. However, I have my heater. So my room temperature is probably at like 20 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. And then I have the heater on. I have the heater on full blast, and I only keep the heater on when I am posing the baby naked. What type of fabric layers? What type of fabric layer? Cottons or for fabric, you want to have something with stretch in it. So I would recommend that you look for something that has like a 4-way stretch. If you go to a fabric store and look for jersey knit or sweater knit or cashmere knit, those types of fabrics will be really nice. And you can use at least 2 yards and cut wraps out of them. And then the rest is good with the dog bed. A space heater for shoots, I would recommend something that has a thermometer built into it so that you can set it at a specific temperature and then it doesn't go above it. Yes, I always focus on the eye that is closest to me. So what we're going to do tomorrow, so I just wanted to bring up where is it here? I'm just going to share my screen again. So for homework, I am hoping that everybody is brave and you can anonymously send in some pictures to be critiqued for tomorrow. And I won't say names. You don't have to watermark your images. But if you do submit pictures, you will be entered in to get 24 hours access to MomTog Monthly. And that's going to give you basically 24 hours to binge the entire course content, which is crazy. So if you see right here at the bottom of this, you can use WeTransfer, and then you can send them to momtalkeducate@gmail.com. Or you can just email it directly because you're not going to send in RAWs. You're just going to send in your finished picture JPEGs. I'm not going to be editing them. I'm just going to be critiquing them. And so the benefit of this is that you're going to be able to see what I would have done differently in the pictures. And if the pictures are posed correctly, that's fine too, because then I will explain why they were posed correctly. I don't have a brand specifically for a heater, but I would just read reviews on heaters that you're interested. I'm not doing any live editing in this class or in this week. Any pose is fine, Lena. Any pose is fine to submit for critiquing. Do you use anything in case the baby has an accident? Do you try to work fast since the baby doesn't have a diaper on? That's a great question. And I actually have some really fantastic fabric that I'm going to show you guys. And I'm going to go grab it. So hold on one second. I'll show you guys. It's really cool. Okay. So as you can see on one side, it's almost got like a towel texture. I'll show you. See, it's a fuzzy texture on one side. And then on the other side of it is like a plastic, but it's really soft. So what I do is I have cut like 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet squares. And then I just put that underneath like 3 layers of fabric. And then I have to wash whatever fabric the baby pees on, but then the rest of the fabric is safe. And I used to use pee pads, but I quit using pee pads because I could hear them, and I guess the noise of them just drove me crazy. And then I don't know, they're bulky and irritating. Um, do I, it's just like, you know what type of fabric it is? It's the type of fabric that they use on seniors' beds in like hospitals where like one side is waterproof and the other side is grippy. I don't know what to call that type of fabric, but I just found it at the fabric store, and you can explain that exact thing to them. You can be like, what is it that they make waterproof sheets out of? There you go. That's what it is. Waterproof sheeting type fabric. Okay. Catherine, Kathy, if you look in oh, it's called a check. Oh, thank you. I didn't even know that. I learned something today. Awesome. If you look in the Beginner Steps to Newborn Photography course, Kathy, there is an entire section on styling and setting up. If they poop and pee on the fabric, it does not worry me at all, because I just throw it in the washing machine and I put it on warm, and I throw in borax, and it boosts the detergent, and it comes out super clean. Doesn't, you should wash it like the same day that it's pooped on, but I have been lazy in the past and waited a couple days and it still comes out. Oh, at the time of the session, um, if it's like a huge mess, then I'll remove the fabric. But if it's just like a little bit of pee, then if I wanted to still use that fabric, then I would just cover it with a layer and then put the baby on top of the layer, and they wouldn't feel the wetness. Where's your thin burlap layer from under your prop shots? Kathy, it's actually just, I bought it from like a D-stash group, so I don't know where it's from, but it's just a jute layer. You can buy it on AliExpress. Yeah. Okay, so if you guys want to get the gift at the end of the week, you do need to participate every single day. So if you're watching the replay, then try and post questions in the group about the replay, and then I can see that you actually watched it, and I will answer your questions. I am going to take like a list of everybody that does participate, so I do appreciate your guys' time. And then if everyone that does participate at the end of the 5 days, you all are going to get 24-hour access into the Mom Talk Monthly education group. It's at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, yes. You haven't taken any baby pictures yet to send me. Oh, okay. That's okay. Okay. If you haven't taken any baby pictures yet, that's okay. Then just tell me that you haven't taken any baby pictures before. Okay, does anybody have any last minute questions? That's okay. If you're brand new to newborn photography, that's okay. But okay, I never thought of that actually, if anybody didn't have any pictures to submit. So let me come up with something, and I will post it in the pop-up group and let you know what you should submit. Okay? So don't worry about it. You joined. It's okay. I will think of something different for you to do. Okay? Yeah, actually you could try with a baby doll, but it'll be pretty hard to pose a baby doll with the bum up pose. But I like that you're wanting to try. I do like that. Amber, the PDF is actually included on my Mom Talk Monthly membership, and also in my Beginner Steps to Newborn Photography mentoring course. Yeah, so this is going to be Monday through Friday this week, and it's going to be an hour long every day, and it would have been over at 6 o'clock, but we had major glitching with the stupid internet. So I'm going to make sure that the next stuff is downloaded ahead of time so I don't have to deal with the internet. But I appreciate your guys' patience. I am going to add that link into the pop-up Facebook group for you guys to access that posing tutorial this week so that you can watch it. And I appreciate your time, and I know that it was annoying, and I appreciate that you guys did not complain. So thank you very much. And you guys have a great night. Yeah, if you can submit them before 5 tomorrow, that would be great, because I want them to actually like use tomorrow in the group, like in the class. So if you can submit images before the class starts tomorrow, that would be fantastic. Thanks, Jody. Thanks, Daphne. Thanks, Brene. Thanks, Melanie. Thanks, Amber. Thank you guys. I really appreciate your time. And I'm more than happy to answer your questions. Petra, if you can watch the replays, and you're going to be able to comment. I've got to figure out the streaming situation. So you can comment on the streams and just comment different things every day about what you enjoyed about the replays. Okay. Okay. Thanks, guys. You guys have a great night. Oh, and you don't have to submit bum up pictures. You can submit any picture, any type of posing. Okay. Okay. You guys have a great night. Bye.